League is also here. We'll sort of throw a few questions over at you. And I think the others, if they've got anything they want to say, they can pass them on via the screen to you, can't they, Ben? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you've got the little chat option there. So just send me any questions on the chat option and I'll ask Chris.
Well, it's very kind of you to give up your time, obviously just before an England game as well. I think keep a little bit of structure to this. If we can start off for the first part of the evening, perhaps learning a little bit about what you've been up to since you left us in 2014. We've got a 6-7 year period. I know you went to Huddersfield first. Anything much you want to tell us about that period?
Not really. No, first of all, it's great to see you all. I can see some familiar faces. Jean, I can see. And who else have I just seen? Well, she's got Marilyn.
Marilyn's here somewhere.
Yeah, I can see her there. So great to see you all. Obviously, big Charlton fans and lots gone on with me. Yes, Huddersfield. Went to Derby briefly. At my time at Southend, which I met an owner that would rival Roland.
In what way, Chris?
I'll move on. And obviously I had 3 months in Holland, which was brilliant. I know it was with a manager that's not too well thought of with Charlton fans, but a great experience personally for me out in Holland with regards to how they prepare, how they live, how they coach. Just wish it was longer, but of course, pandemic has stopped a lot of things in our lives. So that's that was a real shame. But and now with England until the end of the Euros at least. So you know, I've been having a great time, and of course, as ever, keeping an eye on what's going on at the Addicks. And obviously, I've been to a few games over the years, both in a working capacity, but also, you know, just wanted to see the team. And a lot's going on with you guys, as ever. As ever.
How did the England job come about?
So I interviewed for a job with the FA, got down to the last 4, didn't get the role, wasn't successful. But then I got a call 2 weeks later saying that they actually felt there was a role that would be more suited for. And I said, what was that? And they said, the England seniors. And I thought, well, who would say no to that? But I had to interview again with Les Reed and with Gareth. I think I ticked a lot of boxes for Gareth because we were apprentices together at Crystal Palace. So I've known him since we were 15, 16.
Really?
Yeah, but not close friends, you know, over the years. But, you know, if we ran into one another or the odd text. And obviously when you're with England, you get to see a lot of things that, you know, have to be kept in-house. I think he wanted someone who he could trust as well as add to the coaching team. And there was a new scheme with the FA. We put in a coach of a Black and Asian background with each of the teams. And they felt I ticked all the boxes with, you know, I had a few caps, obviously, when I was playing for you guys. And I've had experience of managing and handling senior players. So they've, you know, offered me the role, which is great. It's part-time, it's not full-time. So it can go alongside any job other than, I suppose, managing. I think if you're managing, you can't do this job as well. But it's a brilliant honour. It's been great to be exposed to travelling with the England senior team, seeing what it's like, seeing how they handle all the pressure. You know, we've had some successes, and then when we haven't, you know, how do we bounce back? It's been eye-opening, and dealing with players that pull out, turn up, but can't commit themselves to the week because, they get pressure from their clubs as well. So it's been great. And Gareth's, excellent. I think he's sort of what we should have as an England manager, an England coach. And I think we should have an Englishman in charge of the England side, but that's just my view.
How many other coaches are there other than you working with Gareth?
So there's Steve Holland, who's the assistant manager, who worked at Chelsea under all the managers they've had over the years. He's really good. He's the one who really drives it on the pitches. But then there's Alan Russell, who's a striker coach. Martin Margetson, who's the goalkeeping coach who works for Swansea. And myself. And then there's a massive entourage. I mean, there's more staff than players. There's literally more staff than players. So they don't leave anything, to chance. It's all really well organised. We travelled down today from St George's Park to Penny Hill Park, which I'm sure the rugby fans online would know that's where England are meant to be, but Eddie Jones has moved us from there. And obviously we're not playing world rugby, but we're using it now, and there's no one here. So we've got the run of the place, and that keeps us safe as well with regards to coronavirus and COVID, etc.
You got a nice little trip to Albania, I think, at the weekend, haven't you? That'll be be a fun place, I should think.
Can you believe it, Ian? I've been there before. Yeah. So when I was in the England squad with Sven, one of the games was there. I didn't play in the game, but we went, and it's a tough place. But they've got a brand new stadium, and they're not a bad team, actually. I know we think, well, they're not great, but more than half their squad playing in Italy, in Serie A. So we've got San Marino tomorrow, which I'm coming out of retirement to play in, I think. But there's no one from San Marino on here, is there? Surely. And then Albania, and then the tough game will be Poland at home. That will be tough because I believe Lewandowski can play now. So obviously we can't give him an inch because he's a supreme goal scorer. But 3 games in 6 days, which will be tough to manage. We've lost a couple of players through injury, and of course, we may lose 1 or 2 as the games go by. But looking forward to it.
So going back to Albania, Chris, all this big entourage of non-playing people you mentioned, I mean, do they all travel to an away game like that?
Well, they used to, but because of COVID now, they just take the minimum staff. But my first few camps, everyone went, and it's so well organised. The chefs and the team managers will go a day before, like they did for here, make sure everything's in place. And then for Albania, they'll fly out on Saturday, but then they'll fly out Friday. We'll fly out Saturday from Farnborough Airport. It's the closest airport to where we're staying. And once we get there, it's all really well organised. Of course, security is one of the major parts of it. We have security here. They follow us everywhere, as you can imagine. But it's fantastic how they do things, and it's really good to see. You learn a lot that you can take back to your club with regards to just the organisation and the communication and how things are done and how things are arranged and prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, do you have a particular role in the coaching? Do you look after the defenders or?
Yeah, so I will work with Steve primarily, because I think what I've got to understand is they've had a close bond since the World Cup. Steve drives all the coaching, but I will support. Like today, we all had 7 players with regards to a shooting drill, a bit of fun. But no, it's more of a learning brief for me But I do go with the defenders. You're correct. I've taken them a couple of times on my own, but also with Steve. The attackers will go with Alan Russell. I'm in all the meetings with regards to the team. Of course, Gareth has the final say, but he likes to listen to what we see and how we feel about things. But ultimately, he has to make the final decision on the players and on the team. But it's great just to be around them, and I mean, someone like Phil Foden. I mean, there's some once in a lifetime talent, and he's just an amazing player. And it's great that he's the future of England for me. So really good to see someone like that. Jack Grealish, who's not here this time round, but we're producing players. And the biggest decisions will be in May when he has to name 23, because there's a good 35 players that could quite easily be in the 23 for the Euros.
Nick Pope is one of those players who might be in the team. Is it? It's obviously pleasing for us to see a former Charlton player doing well. Do you think he's got a chance of starting games, or?
You're trying to get a steer on the team for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Listen, he one proud moment for me since I've been here was when there's a debut. You present the player with his shirt, either before the game in the dressing room or the training or at the hotel before we leave. And Gareth gave me that honour for Popey because I signed him way back for $5,000 or whatever it was. And I set him on a journey. I think he came on. He didn't make his full debut with me, but he came on in the last game against Bristol City. When was that? 2013, I think. And I presented Nick with his shirt and gave a little speech about his journey at Charlton, his loans. But it's all been down to him, and especially Ben Roberts initially and Phil Chappell. And then he came in on trial, and it's great for me to see someone like him develop and possibly be one of England's goalkeepers in a major tournament, and even possibly starting. So like you say, it's great for all Charlton fans, and really good for me that someone like him, who I've managed and coached, and Connor Cody I had at Huddersfield in the squad. It's great that you've been part of their journey to the top of their profession, which is playing for England.
Of course, but for his injury, Joe Gomez would probably be a contender as well. So, two ex-Charlton people at the same time, which just shows the talent that our academy is pushing through. Well, Pope didn't come so much from the academy, but the quality coming through is still there, and long may it continue.
Well, you mentioned those two guys, but then you talk about one or two others. Ezra Konza was sort of, on.
He's being talked about, isn't he?
Possibility, might be a bit too late, but you never know. And the amount of players that have come through and gone on from the academy, it's always been part of the club. I've known that from when I was there as a player, that Curbs would put in, Konchesky's and Sean Newtons and the like, and it's always been part of the club and always will be. I know there's not loads, Alfie Doughty and Albie Morgan. Obviously Doughty's moved on, but Albie Morgan's there, and there'll be one or two. It always is, and Jason obviously does the 23s. And you look at Adamola, Lookman, the list is endless. In many ways, I'm sure you guys will be thinking if they all stayed, what sort of team we would have had.
If only.
Yeah.
Chris, I've got a question here from Neil. He's just saying, do you feel there's more unity among the England squad now than maybe there was a few years ago when you had Man United players on one side, Liverpool players on the other side? Is that something Gareth's worked on?
He's definitely worked on it. I mean, he was very public with it leading up to the World Cup. It was before I joined the squad, but no doubt it's it's something that has definitely helped unify the team, and of course results help that as well. But yeah, I mean, if I take myself, 20 years ago now, I turned up in the squad and I was basically on my own because there was United lads on the table, Liverpool lads, sort of there was a big split, all talented players, but there was a big split, and I know it's been public knowledge now. But he's definitely worked on making the players take ownership of us, being proud of the shirt, and they do definitely have benefited from a lot of the work Gareth's done with them, and that's carried on now. You know, you'll always get the odd player if he's not playing or you know, he's not in the starting 11. You always get issues, but he deals with them head on. He speaks to every player, makes time for staff. It's a real unified group, and they're happy to be in camp. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you used to sense that there was players that didn't want to be there because of the pressure of wearing the shirt and what could happen in the media and from fans. But I think these players primarily are just really happy to be here and want to be here. And I think that's the biggest thing.
That's
you
really
want to be here. Yeah.
And do you looking ahead when the England thing comes to an end, and no doubt when they change managers, they'll change the coaching staff at the same time. That's what normally happens, isn't it?
You get me sacked, Ian?
No, well, I'm hoping if you win a few tournaments, you'll stay on a bit longer. But what I was going to say was, have you got ambitions to get back into club management again?
You know what? I was asked this actually by one of your heroes today. I spoke to him for a while. Magic Man, Paul Mortimer. I spoke to him earlier on today, and he asked me the same question. I said, I don't miss the madness. I sometimes miss Saturdays, sometimes, not often. But I said, you know, you can say that, and then an opportunity arises and you take it. So, you know, I'm doing this, and obviously I'm at Spurs now, which is a real different role for me, but learning a lot about the game and about young players, which is great. At an elite club, the mindset's slightly different. So that's been good for me to learn new things. And who knows, you know, I've enjoyed elements of managing, but, you know, it's never easy, but it's always in your psyche, in your DNA. It always is. Once you've managed and you've had success, I think you always feel that you could do it again. So, you know, who knows what could happen in the future.
Chris, what's your role at Spurs precisely? I know
I was
you
just going to say the same thing.
Yes.
So I'm head of academy coaching for the under 17s to 23s. So I think their thinking was when they approached me in the summer before I had 3 interviews, but they came to me and basically they were looking for more senior management in their academy, because those players are one step away from being in first teams. It's very rare, but you do get in at you know, a Premier League side. But I think what they want is a bit of realism from someone who's managed, what I look for and what managers would look for in when they take them on loan. Because I think there's an idea that they feel it's quite easy. They're at an elite club, Category 1 Premier League side, and they think, oh, if we go to League 1 or League 2, it's easy. And we all know it isn't. You know, there's a realism that it's quite physical. There's points on the line. There's games to be won. And when you play in the 23s, it's about development. You've got to learn to win, but actually there's not much on it, as much as if you're playing for Charlton in League 1. So as part of that, I'm doing a little bit of coaching, but I liaise with the head coaches. Sometimes work with Jose, on the odd occasion, which is quite eye-opening. Let's not go into that one. But yeah, it's a new role for me, and it's obviously it's a club that I've always supported as a boy. So there's an element of that which I think they quite like as well.
So reading between the lines, you're lining up some good loan players for us for next season, are you?
Well, I did offer one to Johnny Jackson. I gave him a call. The lad ended up at Portsmouth, Harvey White. But it is hard because he's 19, never been out on loan before. And I've been there. When you're a manager and you think, well, if I expose him to this, will he be able to handle it? And that's always a decision a manager has to make, no matter what feedback and what reports he has on the player. It's always a risk. There's an element of risk. So, we'll keep trying to get players out, trying to get them ready, either for Spurs or for the wider game. We want them to have careers, and that's what we're aiming for.
When you're looking to loan players out, Chris, is there a criteria you're looking for in terms of how teams play or what the managers are like?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's elements of that. We always look at, will he be exposed to what we would like to see in his development? Everyone has a different pathway. I think what I've learned is all the agents feel that the pathway is the same for every player. He signs a pro contract, he plays in the 23s, he does well, gets in the first team, and then he gets a big mega contract and he's a star. It doesn't happen like that. Every player has a different route. I did, Johnny Jackson did. Every player has a different pathway. It may be that he just sails through all the teams, doesn't go out on loan, plays for the first team, and it's great. But other players benefit from going out on loan, being exposed to a senior dressing room, what it means to lose, what the reaction's like in the week. Can he come through that? Can he understand the art of winning, the art of losing, of bouncing back? So, yeah, the criteria, how they play, if he can handle the manager. But, we actually don't mind whatever the manager's like, because they're going to be exposed to different characters, different personalities throughout their careers. But it's important. We never say they have to play. I always say they have to earn the right to play. So when I've taken lads on loan from clubs higher up, I always say they have to earn the right. I can't guarantee you that he will play, because if he's not doing well, then he can't play, and that's how football is. I was
going to say, I think we've seen that exactly what you're saying at Charlton in the last couple of years, because we've had an outstanding. The outstanding one was Conor Gallagher, who came in, who'd never been out on loan anywhere, came in and absolutely tore the place up, and we just had he not been taken away at Christmas and stayed the full season, I'm absolutely certain Charlton would have stayed up last year. I mean, it's an absolute certainty. He was making a big difference. But against that, there's been a couple of other lads who you can see they've got skill and ability, but they will physically and probably mentally as well not quite up for the struggle. Perhaps they're just not quite at the development stage where they could cope with it. So I think we've seen, we've had a couple of those in the last couple of years as well.
It's all about timing, Ian. It really is. Conor, I mean, he was amazing for Charlton. Yeah. But then Chelsea would have looked at it and said, well, actually, he can do that level, so he needs to go to a slightly higher level in their eyes. I know he went to Swansea, didn't he?
That's right.
Second half of the season. Then he goes to West Brom, because his pathway is 2 or 3 loans. And he's now, I saw him yesterday, actually, before they flew off the 21s. And I mean, if West Brom go down, you can see him either getting another Premier League loan or signing for a club where he's going to play regularly. You can see it. Or Chelsea might say, actually, he might come into our group. So that was a very good loan. That's timing. and as you said, mentally ready for exposure at senior level and the pressures that brings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Unless you've got any other questions on what we've been talking about there, Ben, perhaps we can wind back in time to the latter stages of your days at managing Charlton, Chris, if enough time has gone by that we can dredge some of that up again now without...
Oh, please don't. Please don't, Ian. Thought this was...
I think we'd all like to... You know,
is this a therapy session?
So much was said, and when our Belgian friends came on board, things were a little strange, to put it mildly.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say about that period? I still, you know, to this day, and it's many years on, I still to this day always feel if I had good owners, you know, Tony Jimenez was okay. He didn't have the money. As simple as that. You know, it's no secret. He didn't have the money. He said he did, but he clearly didn't. So after that championship season, when, you know, we finished ninth, after we got promoted, he said, "Oh, get rid of all these players. You know, we're going to get better." Basically, he was clearing the decks because of the money. So, you know, we lost Danny Haynes, Ricky Fuller, Bradley Wright Phillips. Yeah, it was tough, and ended up with no players coming in. So that there were signs then of what was going on in his mind. Players didn't get new contracts, the Yans and etc. And you could sort of sense something wasn't right. And then when he said, "Well, you know, I need to sell to good people that I love the club at heart," I mean, he couldn't have been further from the truth. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was cut your losses and run with Tony. And then Roland, obviously, the way they worked was they controlled the clubs, they controlled the players, they controlled the coaches. You know, I hate talking about it because I just feel that if there's one club it shouldn't have happened to, it's Charlton. You know, whether I was in charge of it or not. I've been a player there, and it just totally the wrong ownership for the club as a going concern, and for the people like yourselves. So, you know, it's quite clear from my first meeting what was going to happen. And of course, it got worse. I mean, not only for me, but for you guys and for all the coaches that came in. I mean, I'm quite amazed how Bo and Steve managed to just keep that going. I really am. I mean, I don't know how they did it. I've spoken to Steve a couple of times, but never really in depth on what was going on. But it was a real tough time because you could almost see it disintegrating before your very eyes. So it's one of those things, and you know, a massive, massive mistake and a horrible chapter in the history of Charlton.
I think the later years when Lee was in charge, I think he'd really turned his back on the whole thing, was just letting them get on with it. And as long as he kept to a budget which kept reducing, as long as they kept within the budget, he wasn't really interfering. Whereas if I understand it correctly, you were getting a pretty high level of interference when you were there, when you first arrived. I mean,
it's a good way of putting it in. High level of interference. Yeah.
True that the French goalkeeper just turned up with his suitcase one day or something. Was it as bad as that?
Yeah, literally. I mean, I'm going to test your memory here, and I know one of you guys, or a lot of you will know. Do you remember the Polish striker?
Peter.
Yeah, Polish Pete, we called him. We couldn't say his surname. Polish Pete. He literally turned up. I was having a staff meeting, and Chris Parks came upstairs and said, "Pete's downstairs." I said, "Who are you talking about?" He said, "Oh, it's striker. He's turned up. He's here for training." And I said, Parksy, I don't know who it is. So I literally went down. It's not the lad's fault. I went down and I acted as if I knew him, you know. I said, Pete, great to see you. I couldn't wait to you turned up. Yeah, your kit's here, and go and get your kit. And I didn't know him. And I think it cost 800,000 euros. I was compelled to put him on the bench, and I think I brought him on for 10, 15 minutes. I don't think he ever played again. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, 800,000 euros. So,
but presumably we only saw him for a few minutes, but you obviously had him in training. So, I mean, were you able to, was he just so far below the standard, or just not what you needed at the time, or what?
Well, he was nowhere near it, Ian.
Yeah, I'm not being unkind to him, man. It's not his fault, as you say. But so I mean, that was readily obvious in training. So you've got this guy there, and nothing you could do with him.
No, and then there was pressure that you have to play him, because obviously they thought we spend a certain amount of money on him, expose him to the English game, and maybe an English club might take him for double the money. I mean, that was the mindset, no doubt. Thuram, I had a few fights about Thuram. I mean, I'm sure you remember, it's quite an iconic game when we beat QPR. Jacko scored last minute, and Thuram played. And I don't know how we got away with it to this day. I mean, Harry Redknapp didn't speak to us after the game. But I was thinking, we put Thuram in, he should have been in goal. But he went in, we got away with it. I think he played at Middlesbrough. I was told to play him at Middlesbrough, and I said no, I was going to play. I think it was Ben Anik we had at the time. But Ben fell ill overnight at the hotel, so I had to play him. And we lost 1-0. I think he let one through his hands from 25 yards or something. A real soft goal. And that was sort of the start of it. And it was just never ending from there. Nico, he came in, the fullback. I was told he's better than, the fullbacks you already had, Chris Solly, and I think Royce was injured at the time, possibly. Yeah, it was just non-stop from then.
Chris, how much was Thomas Dreisen? Was it Thomas Dreisen telling you that, or was that Roland?
He wasn't there then with me. He wasn't. Okay. He was in the background, but I know he was more visible, sort of after I left. But he wasn't part of me. But their comeback was, English managers don't want interference. Which is a load of rubbish. It was a load of rubbish. They can't do this, they don't do that. It's just a load of rubbish. It was peddling misinformation just so it sort of made what they were doing a bit more important. But no, I mean, I just said to him, it won't work, and I didn't want to be proven right, but certainly it was over the years.
I mean, is it true, Chris, that you were receiving emails from our friend in Belgium telling you, about what 4-4-2 was and things, tactical advice for you?
I had everything in. I literally had everything. I had emails, I had phone calls. I think if you remember, there was a press conference. And there's a picture of me. I'm sure you fans have seen it, where I'm sort of looking at Roland. Literally half an hour before, we were arguing, and I mean really arguing. Like, I just said to him, "What are you doing? It's just wrong for this club. It's just disgraceful. I'm not standing for it, but you do what you have to do." And then we're sitting in front of the press, and he's saying, "Oh, it's the coach for me." I'm thinking, you lying. But that was just how it was. It was they wanted to make a mark. I get it. If you pay money, a lot of money, I understand that you feel it's your club to run, you want to run it your way, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and say they shouldn't have done it because they would feel entitled to do it, and I think they felt like that all the way through until it came to a head, and obviously then it was trying to move the club on, and obviously that hasn't been the easiest of rides. It's been quite protracted, and hopefully now the club has an owner who, over time will hopefully do the right things with the right people.
A question here for you, Chris, from Joe, who says, were there any players that you wanted to sign then when you were Charlton manager that you couldn't sign?
Oh, loads, yeah, loads that would have improved us. I mean, oh God, you're testing me now. But it was definitely, I just felt the club was on an upward scale. After a tough first season for me and everyone, we needed to go in the right direction. I felt we were, but then that's when I kind of read the signals with Tony. I said to Tony, look, we're pretty close here, not far off from the playoffs. We haven't spent loads of money compared to the others. Our budget was, I think it was 7 million first season in Championship, which definitely is bottom half. But I said a little bit more investment. It just shows that we're trying to get the club back to where we feel it should be. But it didn't happen, Can't turn the clock back. That's one thing we can't deal with and change is time. But there was definitely players. I mean, I don't want to make them up, but I know, Phil Chappell was really good with regards to getting players that was suitable for us, both in a playing sense, but also in a financial sense as well. But, real missed opportunity, which, is something I will regret forever, I suppose.
And maybe one last question on this from Jonathan. Before the disastrous cup quarter final with Sheffield United, did you know you were going to be sacked?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, more or less. I think leading up to the game, a massive game like that, you should be clear. You should know exactly what you're going to do with your team, which I was. But then, of course, all of a sudden I've got players saying, well, they should be playing. And I'm getting calls saying he should be playing. I'm trying to think back to the team. But there was one or two that I said, they can't start the game. And I knew then, and it was horrible, really, because it was a big day, a big moment for all of us. And been in, the quarterfinals for a long time. I think last time was when I was playing, we lost to Bolton.
That's right.
So, I kind of knew then, and I don't know if many of you remember, I just stood on the touchline after the game. I shook every Sheffield United player's hand, and obviously my own, but I shook theirs and just stood there and thought, well, you know what, it's been a good ride. But on the bus home, I kind of said to the staff, I think, tomorrow that'd be it. We weren't doing well in the league. Let's not forget that. I know we had games in hand, but we didn't win many games at that time. We were very, very affected by what was going on, no doubt. And maybe because obviously Mr. Rieger came in and the team managed to start, which was brilliant because it didn't deserve to be where we were. But that's football.
I think allowing Jan to go at that time was as big a mistake as he made. I mean, that was just downright ridiculous, wasn't it?
Well, I was told he was overweight. I was told he wasn't a good striker.
Oh.
And I said to him, "Have you seen the previous 2 years?" Yeah, and I mean, even that, when I was told by Catherine, Bournemouth coming, how much should we sell him for? She was asking me. And I said, nothing. You shouldn't be selling him. But she said, no, they want to sell him. They want to bring in a couple of other strikers. And I said, you do what you have to do. I rung Jan and said, I really don't want you to go, but you know what? Go for the sake of your career. Don't stay with these people, and obviously he experienced promotion to the Premier League, which, you know, I'm so pleased for him.
If ever a bad decision came back to haunt us, of course, the end of that season, when by then you'd gone, Bournemouth's last game of the season was at the Valley, and Jan and the rest of them stuffed us at 5-0 or something. It was quite a heavy score.
Yeah.
3-0, I think it was. Yeah.
3-0, was it? It felt like 5-0.
He ran the show that day, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's some player. You know, he's some player. We still speak now, but he's some player. He's quite easily, you know, I know there's many players that were influential for me, but alongside Jacko in a different way, I think Jan was the catalyst for me. It really was. He was a special sort of player, quite a unique player in sort of his build and his touch, and you don't get many players like that in his spring. And I'm really glad I went for him. You know, I'm not sure I told you a story, but obviously I had him at Leicester, and he was a bit of an outcast. And then we had Paul Hayes, who I thought was really unlucky. He did really well. He loved playing with Brad. I just felt something was missing. I really felt something wasn't right. We were close, but not close enough. And we were looking at all different strikers. And I just said to him, look, there's a player at Leicester who, bit unique. I said, it could backfire. I basically had to sell London to him and Greenwich, basically. I said, Leanne, you know, I know you're fed up with Leicester. Come and live in London. You can get to France easily. You'll be a bit of a hero. If we don't make it in this year, Pete Varney was great. He said, you know, he can have a free transfer. So he gambled on us and we gambled on him, and the rest was history.
I think when he first arrived at Charlton, most of us had never heard of him. I certainly hadn't. Most people hadn't. And I'm doing this with no research, just from my memory. But one of his first 2 or 3 games as an away games feels like it was Milton Keynes, but I might be wrong. Yeah. And you had him on the bench, and we hadn't really seen much of him, if at all, at that point. And you brought him on as sub, and he just ran on the field, ran up. We had a corner. He just ran straight from the touchline up to the corner, headed it straight in the goal. I thought, yeah, I can get to like this guy.
Yeah, he made some impact, and a lot of games early on. Sheffield United was the one he came on. The sub, scored his first touch.
Oh, okay, I got the wrong.
No, MK Dons, he
scored. Yeah,
he scored, and he made an impact there. And it was just, you know, a few games. I think there was a home game, Hartlepool or Chesterfield, where he came on and was involved in one of the goals. And in the end, I had a big decision to make. It was a big call because, you know, Hazy, I thought settled really well. He was an intelligent player, was happy to, you know, lay goals on more than score for Brad. And obviously that's what Brad lived off. So it was a big call, but it was the right one. And, you know, that's what you're paid to do as a manager, make the big calls. And if they work, you get the plaudits. If they don't, you lose your job. Simple as that.
A question here. Well, couple of corrections here. A couple of people, Callan and Danny, pointed out we made an FA Cup quarter-final in 2006. But anyway, David said, Chris, how did you build such a great team spirit in that 2011-2012 championship team?
It's a bit of everything, actually. I think one of my big things was, I'm sure a number of you have heard it before, I was saying that Charlton's a big club in League One, and they needed to feel that they were here to get the club up and move the club up and move the club on. Living in London, you know, it is a pull. It is to a lot of players, not all. I had to convince Dale Stevens, and now he went further south after playing for us. Went to Brighton, but he didn't want to come down south. He really didn't. So I had to convince him. But I think what was key to it all was new start, new broom for everyone, new club. Pre-season was huge. our trip away, well documented, was huge. We did some things that got them together. Who was captain was huge. But I made sure that everyone felt part of it. And from day one, I said, you know, we're not here to make up the numbers. We're not here to, you know, let teams have a great day out at a good stadium in League One. You know, we're here to win. We're here to go up. Did I envisage 101 points in Championship? No, I definitely saw us in the top 6, but just everything was aligned. We had players playing at a real high level, players who actually I felt were better than the league they were in. And that was part of our thinking as well. You know, to get players that we wouldn't have to replace loads if it all went well. But we had a great time in Spain. They tested me as a young manager. Really tested me. But we came through it. We came through it together. Sorry?
In what way did they test you?
Put it this way, they went against what I said for one night. It actually wasn't the night, it was during the day, in between 2 sessions. And it's a test, because if you don't show leadership, if you don't show man management in the right way, then you can lose them. And as players, and I've been one, you always test the manager. There's no doubt you do. But there's lines you don't cross. And if you cross them, you know, you feel the wrath of the manager. And, you know, as a young manager, you've got to step up. So I did that. I had a good group. I could see straight away I had a bit of a leadership group in Jacko, in Matt Taylor, in Michael Morrison. I had a bit of a leadership group. Even Brad, in his own way, was a bit of a leader. And good staff. They were important. I think Addicks, Ben Roberts, who's at Brighton now, who's doing a great job there. Very, very important. And obviously Pete Varney and Steve Kavanagh were as well. But that was important. And, you know, we just grew. We had a good balance of players that had played, young talents, Solis and Waggy, and, you know, it really worked well. It was a good balance, good blend, and a lot of them are still friendly now, which I think's, you know, a testament to how they got on at that time.
Talking of managers, what did you think about the appointment of Nigel Adkins?
Yeah, good. I mean, I was quite shocked. Obviously, I kind of knew on the grapevine that Lee was going to end up at Birmingham. But it was interesting to see what way the new owner would go. You know, you heard a few names bandied about. And obviously Jacko took the game. And I texted Jacko the day before. And I said, well, here we go, Skip. You know, just be yourself, be clear, motivate them, inspire them, and, you know, let them get on with exactly what you want to see. And at 2-0 down, I was at home thinking, well, that wasn't the best advice I've given Jacko, but I was so pleased for him. He dressed up for the occasion as well, which was great. And I actually thought there might be an outside chance of him having it till the end of the season, which would have been interesting, but maybe too early. Maybe the owner thought it was too early. And I believe he's part of the setup with Nigel. I don't know if Andy Crosby's come in. Has Andy Crosby come in?
No, not yet.
No. Right. Now, Andy's normally with him, so whether he's going for a change, you know, sometimes as a manager, you like to have a different number 2. So whether he feels Jacko's ready, whether Jacko's ready for it now, be interesting. But Nigel's good. You know, he's been promoted twice, Scunthorpe and Southampton from League One, obviously from Championship with Southampton. Knowledgeable. okay, his last couple of jobs were so-so, but it doesn't make you a bad manager. I'm always, when people say, oh, he rubbish at his last job, doesn't mean he's a bad manager. It just might be the synergy, it might be the players, it might be just not the right time. But he definitely has the credentials to be a success, whether that's long-term or short-term. You know, only Thomas can answer that. Yeah, let's hope that he can get the team over the line and at least in the top six. So it won't be easy looking at the games. Obviously, Charlton have played a few more games than the others, and Blackpool like a train at the moment, and they've got games in hand. But who knows? You know, let's hope that he can do it.
You didn't fancy applying yourself, Chris?
Me?
Yeah.
God, Ben, come on. I didn't even think about it, and you know, I wouldn't. I'm not in that place where I think, oh, you know, apply for it. And sometimes, this is me saying this, which sounds really odd because I've been back 4 times. I was just going to say, don't go back.
Yeah.
But I think when you manage, you know, some managers have gone back, but I think you sort of sometimes look at it and say that's your time. You've had your time. But
yeah.
Again, who knows whether it, you know, something happened. Who knows? You know, you always say no, and then it comes up, and people say, "Well, he said he didn't want to do it," but
yeah.
No, it wasn't something that crossed my mind at this time, anyway.
No. Another question from D. What are your memories of the 5-4 Cardiff game? Because it was rumoured your job wasn't that secure with Tony Jimenez at that stage. And how important was that result?
You know what? This is going to sound really odd. I've got my phone. My phone just flashed. And you know who's just texted me? Malky Mackay.
No.
Yeah.
Who was the manager of Cardiff that night.
Mm.
That's my favourite game, I think.
Mm.
Just because of we lost to Middlesbrough on the Saturday 4-0. And that wasn't a good phone call on a Sunday with myself and Tony. And I think Tony, because his friend was, well, thought he was his friend, Gus Poyet, was doing great at Brighton, spent a load of money. He wanted to be like Brighton. I was saying, well, if you give me £1 million to spend on a striker like Macau Smith, yeah, fine. But that's not happening, so we've got to do what we've got to do. But he was adamant, oh, we should be Brighton and this, that and the other. So the Cardiff game, you know, the hardest game I could have chosen, really. We're 2-0 down. I said to Alex, I think this is it. You know, we're losing to top of the table team, 2-0 after, 20 minutes. And I tinkered with the team. I think I played Rob Holst on his own initially and Danny Haynes on the right. And we sort of packed the midfield. But that wasn't going to work. Now we're 2-0 down. So I put Hainesy up top. And I remember it clearly. I just said, well, we've got to go for it. You know, if we lose 3 or 4, well, we go down fighting and that's it. And then Jacko obviously got us back in with 2 goals. A bit like the game he had the other day against Bristol Rovers. You know, and then at 2-2, you do feel when you go in, this could be us now. You know, we're on a high and brilliant game. I mean, I'm sure many of you were there. It was just a brilliant night, a brilliant night. Until the last few minutes when they scored 2 goals after going 5-2 up and 5-4. And I think they had a chance to make it 5-5. Yeah, it wouldn't be Charlton if it wasn't like that. But yeah, that was a big moment, a big turning point in that season.
What did Jimenez say after the game?
Not much at all. I don't think he spoke to me, if I remember rightly. I think we spoke maybe a couple of days after that. But yeah. And I think it gave a lot of confidence to you guys as well, you know, that we can compete in a real tough league, you know, because it is, no doubt about it. You're against sides that just come down from the Prem, got parachute money, and you've come up from League One. you looked upon as a bit of a smaller fish, but we showed that we could compete at the highest level in that division.
Yeah, I just remember the crowd really, even when we were 2-0 down, I think that sensing that it needed something and started making a lot of noise, and just seemed to feel part of it that night. That comeback was the crowd as well, getting felt.
It galvanised everyone. I mean, I just remember sort of when we scored sort of the third or the fourth goal, the place was like, it was manic. I think Hainsey scored, Rob Hull scored, Testimino scored the fifth, or the other goal. Jacko got 2. Danny Haynes, Rob Hulse, possibly well, I don't know. Dale Stevens, I don't know. Someone to tell us before we're off.
I remember, was it Danny Holland? Did Danny Holland get a goal that night? I can't remember. No.
Don't know. But it was just, I mean, he was sucking the ball in, basically. A bit Liverpool-like at the Cop. It was just being sucked in at the North Stand, and they couldn't believe it. I mean, Malky afterwards, with the close friends from Watford West Ham days, he couldn't believe it afterwards. He was stunned. He was pleased, but obviously he had a bit of a mad owner as well, and he was under pressure to get him up, which he did. But yeah, it was a great night. On the great nights.
Joe's just said on the chat, it's Stevens scored a long-range free kick from almost the halfway line, and
Did he?
And Callum said Rob Hulse got the 5th goal. So.
Yeah, so Danny Haynes got the 4th.
He got the 3rd one. Yeah.
Dale, long-range free kick. Okay, getting old.
Yeah,
getting old.
I don't remember it either. So I just remember that great goal Danny Haynes scored up at Leicester.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hainsey is a bit of an enigma, but I got a lot out of him. I had a lot of time for Danny Haynes because he's a mixed bag. He was like an impact sub, could really make an impact. Sometimes you started him, didn't work, but then other times he scored up at Burnley, a really good header. He won 1-0 up there. Scored a brilliant goal against Derby at home. Fans remember. Goalless season contender for sure. And then the Leicester one was special for me because obviously I worked at Leicester and retired there. Brilliant goal. He definitely had that in his locker, and he was quite he was a good guy. Bit misunderstood.
A lot of injuries in the end, didn't he?
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah.
But he could definitely score a terrific goal and be a bit of a game changer. And I always liked players like that. I felt fans like players like that. They couldn't live with them and it doesn't happen and it hits their shins and go, what? But then they know there's always something in them. A bit like Ricky Fuller. Sometimes couldn't run, but then just do something that everyone would just go, where did that come from? And they're always good to have in your team, in the squad.
I'm mindful of the time, and we don't want to take liberties with Chris. If anyone's got any questions, if you could chuck them in quickly, and we'll squeeze 2 or 3 in, and then we'll call it a day, I think, because Chris has got a lot of work to do tomorrow.
I haven't tonight.
Well,
so far away, it's all right. I'm enjoying myself.
I think we said an hour. I mean, if you want to go on longer, we would certainly like to go on longer. It's entirely up to you.
No problem whatsoever.
Okay, what you got there, Ben?
Benji Nurick saying, can he ask a question? So, Tony, you're going to have to unmute him if you can do that, Tony.
No, I think I can unmute myself.
Okay, you've done it. Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, great to hear your stories. It's really fantastic. I've got a question coming more from your playing days. I was doing some research last year, and was it you that invented the tunnel jump?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, sort of. Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, because of Kins. Because of Kins used to celebrate in front of the North Stand, didn't they, when I first joined? And then Blackburn away when we won promotion, I kept coming out of the tunnel and acknowledging the fans. And then I met a few of you guys, at the sort of end of season dinners and events, Player of the Year, etc. And everyone seemed to like it. So I said, all right, let me see, I'll do something during the season. And then I don't know how it all started where everyone sort of stayed, but I think I've told a few of you, I remember playing in games and we're winning. And it might be 2-3 minutes to go. And I'm thinking, no one's going home. No one. No, normally you see a few fans sort of funnel out. No one used to leave. And it was like, you got to do it. And yeah, it was, the tunnel jump was born, and then it became part of match day routine, which I know fans like. You know, I've been there, and fans like the experience. You know, they pay the money, see their team win, and they want to feel part of it. And it's, you know, any little role you can play as a player to make the fans have a good day. And yeah, it got a bit crazy in the end. I think I started jumping out with the mascot's head on one game, and yeah, and people used to ask me about it.
And it's still carried on to this day. It's still being done to run up to today.
Is that right? By who?
Yeah. Well, whoever.
Well, not at the moment, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, last season anyway. I mean, you know, if somebody scored a winning goal or someone had done really well, they come out and do the tunnel jump.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Still going. Yeah.
Well, I knew. Did Rob Elliott try and do it one time?
Yeah.
Before I came back. I'm amazed at that. I didn't know that.
They were definitely doing it last season.
Yeah, good. No, good. Let's hope you get the chance to see it again soon.
On the chat now, who Joe again was asking, who was the best player you played with at Charlton, and just in general?
Oh, I get asked this a lot, and I can never choose one. I mean, I loved Klaus Jensen. I loved Klaus. Just, he was quite a unique player. Couldn't head the ball. Didn't want to head the ball. Didn't really want to tackle. And you're thinking, well, that's not a good player. But Christ, give him the ball, and he was a class player. I thought for one season Scotty was unplayable. Scotty Parker. I know it was acrimonious how he left, but he was unplayable. It was literally him and 10 others. It was, you know, we had a role to play, but he was unplayable at times, you know. And I think we had some really, really good players, some underrated players. Dean Kiley in goal was superb. And I think we, you know, I'm still friendly with him now, but I think he was great. He was almost like the missing piece when Curbs bought him when we won promotion. But, you know, I look back and, you know, I look at lads like Johnny Robinson, Jerome Thomas, who are both lads played in front of me, both unique talents in their own way, but both really effective in different ways. For the team. Paolo, I think we saw Paolo Di Canio sort of at the tail end. But he upset a few, but he was class. You know, he had some real class about him. It would have been interesting if he was with us for a longer period in his prime, but he was good to. I think Curbs didn't really have many players like that over the years, but I think he was quite clever and quite cute in bringing him in at the time, just to show that we were at that level. You know, I think people always say, oh, it's only little Charlton homegrown players or local players or, you know, players we haven't heard much about, but we've made our mark over the years. And then I think that was almost saying, you know, we've arrived. I know we had Johnny Barnes for half a season. He was exceptional, but couldn't stop us from going down. No, not many people know he played for us, but you know, having Paolo kind of said to me that, you know, we're a Premier League, we're an established club if he wants to come and play for us.
I can't remember anyone taking better corners than Di Canio. His corners were unbelievable.
Yeah, so was his training. I mean, he was a real extrovert, a real character. Upset a few. I think Kevin Lisby wanted to rip his head off one time, but you know, we won't go into that. but he could upset an empty room. But you know, he was a real talent, real talent.
A couple more questions. Some says, can you ask Chris about the headed goal against Spurs and that last game and goal against Coventry?
Well, I've still got the ball, believe it or not. I scored that goal, that headed goal. I mean, we played wing backs that night, so we were encouraged to get forward. I just gambled like, I was going to say like most good strikers, but I couldn't score to save my life. But I just gambled and, you know, headed it in. It's great feeling. I know we lost on the night. It was the cup game, I think, 4-2. That was a great feeling. But I've got to tell you, for the way it ended for me at Charlton as a player, to score when, you know, after playing, I don't know, 200 and odd games, I mean, I couldn't have dreamed that would have happened.
It was like Royal of the Rovers that night, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was for me. It really was. You know, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was Alan, actually, Pardew, brought me on centre mid, which immediately was just wrong, totally wrong. But I think he just wanted me on the pitch last 10 minutes. And again, for that to happen, you know, it was a great way for me to finish. But I got drug tested afterwards. I think a few of you know that. And I didn't see anyone for 2 hours. And that was a bit of a bad way to end. You know, my family were waiting for me. We just jumped in the car and went home. But that was a great feeling. You know, if you can ever end it when you're moving on to score a goal, then, you know, it happened to me, which was a great feeling.
Got a question here from Neil. He said, have you ever managed to bring up that nutmeg when you nutmegged Pep Guardiola?
Bring it up, what, with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could. I was very, very honoured to be given a framed picture of that for my 50th birthday from a very close friend of mine who's a big Southend fan, and I played for them. That's when we became friends. We're still friends now, and he gave me a huge picture of that, with Guardiola sort of turning and the ball going through his legs. Yeah, I mean, it's a great moment. It's a great moment for Charlton. I always said that. Kind of put us on the map a little bit with people. But yeah, great moment. Won the game. And maybe, yeah, I should, if I get to see Pep, maybe I should keep it on my phone and just show it to him. I'm sure he remembers not. But yeah, it was a great day, you know, for me, family, and everyone connected with my football career that day against Spain.
There's maybe talking about Pep again, maybe, but the questions: who was the smartest footballing mind you have been involved with, whether playing, managing, coaching, etc.?
I'll say Roland.
And what made them?
That's a really interesting question, because the game's changing now. You know, if I look back on my career, and obviously, you know, people like Jim Smith was combustible, but he was actually ahead of the game in the way we played. You know, and then Curbs was a different way, and it's a different time. Football definitely goes in cycles. You know, we're seeing now a lot of possession based and teams playing a different way, but football's evolved. You know, players want that content. You know, if I take England and the way, you know, Steve has coached them this morning and yesterday with regards to game tomorrow, there's a lot more. It's analysis. Players want to see their stats. They want to see how we can play. Football has changed and is changing. And I think the new coach, the younger coaches will take that with them. An influx of, you know, Pep, of course, and Klopp and Thomas Tuchel now, you know, they will influence the next breed of English coaches for sure. And you'll see it more in our game. You guys see it when you watch Charlton. Some teams are still quite direct, but other teams want to build. They want to play. MK Dons in League One. I saw the manager the other day talking about the way they play. The only thing I would say to him is, you've still got to win, regardless of your style. You've still got to win. That's what the game's about. But if you do it in the way you want to do it, that's up to you. But I've been fortunate to be exposed to some really good coaches and really good minds in the game. And it's the way the game's going now. And I think now you become someone who influences young talents to look after the game, to ask questions, to improve themselves. And I think that's where football's going now.
Okay, well, I think we got anything else, Ben, or should we want to wrap it up now?
I think we've gone through most of the stuff. So apologies if I haven't picked up anyone's messages or I've anyone's questions, or a few people were asking about curbs and stuff. But I think Chris has spoken about that. So.
Well, was he on, talking of curbs, was he on your show the other week? Because Scott Minto texted me.
Yeah, he's on curbs on every game now. He's a regular.
I think he's trying to get the director of football job. I think he's, someone like him, it's a real shame. We see each other every now and then. I still think a mind like his should be in the game, even as a mentor. We lose too many good people that have served the game well. That should be in it. I know I'm saying at Charlton, but just anywhere. Why throw away 20 odd years of managing? And someone could benefit just from words of wisdom with someone like that. And I think that's important as well, that we don't lose people just because it's fashionable to, have a young coach. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. We all got to start somewhere. But I think we should make sure that these people are still in the game to lend their experiences, because at the end of the day, football may change, but the problems don't change. The behaviours don't change. I can tell you that for a fact. The behaviours of players don't change at all and will never change. Yeah. All they're interested in is playing, having days off, financial, and excuse me, ladies on here, and girls. That's what they're interested in. They want to play. If they're not playing, they want to know why. If not, it's days off, it's financial. That's it. That doesn't change. So actually, managers that have gone through all those minefields before, they should be there to just help a young manager. And I think, if Jacko took the job, say, I know it's Nigel now, but if it was Jacko, then, if he had someone like Curbs, or I know Keith's been there for a long time, I just think that'd be so beneficial. Beneficial.
Alan actually said on the show, on the Valley Pass show, that if Jacko got it for the rest of the season, he'd be happy to help him, which got a few people quite excited that he was going to come back. I don't know if maybe not full time, but I understand what you're saying about him being a mentor. So
okay, well, don't disappear for a second, folks. First of all, I've got a little announcement to make in a minute, but first of all, most importantly, a big thank you to Chris for a most interesting evening. It's a few years since you left us, but you are still held in as high regard as you've ever been. And I can promise you that we've been looking forward to tonight, greatly. So thank you for giving up your time, and I hope all goes well with England over the weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Thanks for having us.
There's a lot of people clapping that you can't hear. But
I hope to see you all down at the Valley, whether I'm there in working capacity with Sky or just there watching. Be good to see you all. Obviously, Gene. Yeah, good to see you, Gene, and Marilyn, and a lot of faces. I see CJ's on there.
Yeah, keeping
who
quiet.
obviously organised it for you all with myself. So, Be good to see you all. Stick by the team. It's never easy being a Charlton fan. I keep telling people.
Whenever we have these evenings, I always tell you that we have the best guests at Bromley Addicks, and further evidence tonight. And if I can just close off the evening by telling you about our next guest, and I got the date right, I think at last, it's 15th of April is the evening. There'll be another Zoom job, obviously, like today. And our guest is somebody you might have heard of called Thomas Sangard.
Wow. Wow. Well done.
Obviously, we want to see you all there, but can you not put that all over social media and tell everyone? Because we don't want people Zoom bombing the meeting or anything like that. So we were really worried that Gareth Southgate might Zoom bomb the meeting tonight, but thankfully he hasn't. So we'll see you all on the 15th then. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And if you did enjoy tonight, just remember that you can make a donation to the Race Europe Fund. You've got all the details on your emails. So
Thank you.
See you later.
Right.
See you later. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Take care.
let's go for organising it.
No worries. Bye.
Thanks.
Guys, thanks.
Good, isn't it?
Well
What they
done.
say.
I thought that was a good meeting. That was really good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
excellent. Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
And I'll get a newsletter out to all members, because it's going to be a members meeting. So anyone on here tonight is a member. So, and as Ben says, we don't want thousands on here really. I think we had 50, nearly 60 on tonight, which is good. Although
I just don't want it being flooded by too many people, and then we can't cope with it. So I'm sure we could have, it'd be nice to have more people, but
yeah, sure.
Get them to email you, Tony, and then they can sign up, and we can do it that way.
I mean, if anybody's happy, if they want to join up, absolutely fine.
Yeah,
absolutely, no problem.
Benji, did you get what you needed? So
He's muted.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you unmute people now, Tony?
Yeah, I tried to.
Thanks, Gene.
You can all unmute yourself, really, just by pressing the space bar, I think.
Thanks for a great evening, guys.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for your questions. Sorry I didn't get them all in. I tried to get most of them in. So
That's fine.
Yeah,
that was good. Thank you.